Hi, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome back to my channel. I'm not a professional streamer by any means. I don't have a lot of experience doing this. A lot of people can make these videos and put a lot of interesting graphics and videos to them. I'm still learning how to do that, so you're gonna have to bear with me here. But what I wanted to make a video here was about tips and tricks for Mass Effect, especially for players who are playing for the very first time, who have never gone through this game, and they're a lot of them are streaming online right now. So I'm actually following several channels of people who are playing the game for the first time. They're live streaming it to their audience. You know, they're having a great time. The people watching it are having a great time. And one of the things I notice is that, there are certain ways to play the game that are completely like freeform. Like you can do whatever you want. And obviously, with Mass Effect 1 being more of an RPG than Mass Effect 2 or 3, you are you make your own decisions, you follow a certain path, and you kind of make your own story. You make Shepard who you want Shepard to be, whether it's male Shep, female Shep. It doesn't matter whether you want them to be nice, mean, a pirate or whatever. When you make your version of Shepard, it's very unique to you. So what I've noticed is a lot of people that are playing this game, there's a couple things I keep noticing people doing that, I don't want to come in and say, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that because, it's their gameplay. It's how they want to play. But there's some things you just don't know until you play through the game the first time. And then you realize, man, I wish I would have gone back and done it this way. I may have had a different outcome, or I may have had a different experience altogether. So I want to give you kind of a couple tips and tricks here that I think would really enhance your gameplay as you get started. So I'm gonna display my Google Chrome page here. Just kind of go through a couple screenshots and stuff because like I said, I haven't got any gameplay footage to show you guys. I mean, I can show you my live streams I've done, but it's not going to do any good for this. So if you've watched any of my other videos, I am very raw. Like I make a lot of Kansas City Royals videos where I call myself, it's like called off the cuff. It's just my raw, unedited reactions. I don't like to edit videos. I like things to be real. I like things to be how they are because that's how people are. That's how you have conversations with people. So and I know that some of the magic is in the editing, but yeah, that's not me. So, which is why I have 85 subscribers. The first thing I want to talk about is, so I grabbed this screenshot here, and so, whoever created this dumped it on the internet somewhere. I wanted to go over the class, kind of some of the skills that you have in Mass Effect. And like I said, this is, if you look here, the talents here, these are going to be a lot more in depth and a lot more intricate that you'll find, especially in Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 3 is kind of a mix between the two. It's got not quite as many as Mass Effect 1, but definitely a lot more skill points in Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 is much more of an action game than an RPG. This character, obviously, the gal who created this character, or a guy, can't assume it's a gal, but they created a femship here as a soldier. And as you can see here, soldiers, they can classify or they can specialize in any type of weapon, whether it be pistols, shotguns, assault rifles, or sniper rifles. They also have the ability to wear heavy armor when you look here in the combat armor talents. The way that this person has built out this character is something that I actually would probably do myself. The one thing I wanted to draw your attention to, which I thought was interesting, is they have decryption here. I didn't think soldiers could have decryption, but this might be maybe this is a mod or something, or maybe it's a hack or something. It's kind of interesting. But as you can see here, as much as they can, they've maxed out their charm. And this is what I wanted to draw your attention to, is maxing out your charm or your intimidate. So charm directly relates to dialogue choices that you can make. That's right here on the Paragon scale. And intimidate allows you to engage in dialogue choices that are on the Renegade scale. So as you can see here, this person they've got about, if you consider each of these 20%, each of these little blocks is 20%, they're 40% up on Paragon and they're 20% up on Renegade. So they're going about 2 to 1 on Paragon to Renegade, which a lot of people seem to kind of do that way. some people just go full Paragon. I usually play full Paragon when I go. My advice to you as a new player, as someone who's streaming on YouTube and you're trying to get the best possible experience, pick one or the other. Okay, there are certain choices that you will make along the way that you're like, you know what, I think I'm playing almost full Paragon Shepherd, but yeah, I think Shepherd really will make this choice, and I'm not going to make any spoilers here. But you would say to yourself, I think Shepherd would choose this Renegade option in this specific circumstance, and I do the same thing too. There are times when I definitely would choose a Renegade option. Sometimes it just makes more sense. Sometimes it's for expediency of the plot as well. You're like, man, I don't want to. If I could choose the Paragon option, I'm going to go down this rabbit hole. I'd rather just end the plot point right here. Let's just Renegade it and move on. Typically, you're going to want to, this person's 2-to-1. I would almost go 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 in favor of one or the other. That way, you're not shut out of options down the line. If you pick the neutral path, and I've seen a lot of YouTube streamers who are streaming this game, if you choose the neutral path too often, you're going to find yourself in a world of hurt because you won't have Paragon or Renegade dialogue options to solve certain situations. In the first game, there are several points of the game that are very critical that you're going to need one of those two options in order to progress the plot in a way that's not going to completely screw your game up. Now, that being said, maybe you want the game to be screwed up. And like I said, it's perfectly reasonable to move them. I'm trying to avoid saying spoilers here. So just know that the best option would be to pick one or the other, or invest definitely more points in one option versus the other, and try to avoid neutral conversation points. So what I mean by neutral conversation points, so here is this little, this is kind of a helpful graphic to show where everything kind of falls out here. So we've got, anytime you have on the dialogue wheel, options on the left side, if there are like 6 options here, unless they're all investigative options, like you're asking questions about like a specific person or an event, which a lot of times happens towards the beginning of the game. If there are 6 options on here, a lot of times this is how they're going to be laid out. The options on the left side tend to dig more into what you're talking about. They continue the conversation. They go deeper into what you're talking about. Obviously, the upper left, friendly, which is Paragon, hostile, which is more Renegade. And a lot of times these will be blue or red because you have to have Paragon or Renegade points in order to unlock those dialogue options. Investigate here, that usually means there's more things to talk about. So if you click on that, you'll dive further into the dialogue tree. The options on the right side, again, on the upper side is Paragon, lower side is Renegade, middle is neutral. Again, try to avoid picking the neutral option if at all possible, unless you just think that that's the way your Shepherd will play, which is completely your choice. But it will shut you out of options later in the game. And it will shut you out of earning those Paragon or Renegade points. The options on the right side of the screen, they typically end the conversations. So keep that in mind. If you want to keep the conversations going, pick the options on the left side. If you want to, be abrupt and quick and you're in the conversation and move on, pick the options on the right side. Next thing I want to do is I want to kind of go through some of these. That's the wrong one. Some of these classes. Again, when you're creating your character, think of the character that you want to create. Soldier is pretty self-explanatory. Anybody who's played an action RPG, first-person shooter, third-person shooter, you know what a soldier class is. They can use all the weapons. Their combat specialty is basically using their guns. They have high health. So a lot of players. I typically play Mass Effect 1 as a soldier, mainly because the abilities from the other classes I think work better in later games, and I'll talk about that a little more in other videos. The next option is an engineer. Engineers are characters that basically only use tech. Now, it says here in the description that they can only wear light armor, and then they specialize in pistols. So pistols is actually one of the better weapons in this game, in my opinion. They're highly accurate. They have they have a very high cooldown period, you can get a lot of shots off. What I'm trying to say is you can get a lot of shots off before the weapon has to cool down. So, like if you're heavy into shotguns or sniper rifles, you can find yourself with your weapon overheating and having to wait for it to cool off before you can use it again. Engineers, they are tech specialists. So if you pick this class, you're going to find yourself being able to open up any container, any crate, any locker, any weapons locker, without having to worry about bringing a tech specialist along with you that has like a decryption or electronic skill in order to open up these containers, which is where most of your loot comes from. So that's one thing to consider. Engineers are pretty weak in Mass Effect 1, in my opinion, at least from the player side, so I typically avoid that. Adept, they are only biotics. They basically, so think of, if you're unfamiliar with this, think of a biotic person as like a Jedi from from the Star Wars universe. You know, they can levitate things, they can use telekinesis, they can throw things with their biotic powers or with their mind powers, essentially. They are pretty powerful, and they, like it says here, that they also can only wear light armor and can only specialize in pistols. Now, in Mass Effect 1 in the remaster, anybody can use any weapon now, and so that's an important distinction. So you can still use an assault rifle or a shotgun or a sniper rifle, but you will have the ability to put points into pistols as a biotic, as an adept, as an engineer, so your pistols can have more damage, and there's some special abilities that unlock with certain weapons. So again, adepts are very powerful. If you play with this, you want to make sure when you're going out on missions in which you can take 2 squad mates with you, you want to diversify your squad. So if you're a biotic specialist, take someone who's a tech specialist and take someone who's got who's a soldier as well. Mix up your squads, depends on the situation. You always want to at least, some people say you always need to have a biotic specialist and a tech specialist. I disagree. In the bare minimum, you need to always have a tech specialist so you can open up those locked crates and locked lockers, and anything that you want to get the loot out of. Biotics, you can take them or leave them. In the first game, biotics are much more powerful and much better, in my opinion, in Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. So I'll quickly go over here. Infiltrator. Infiltrator is someone who, like it says here, combines combat and tech abilities. If I don't play as a soldier, I usually play as an infiltrator because I'm more of the long-range sniper, stealth kind of character. Even though this character in Mass Effect, there are no really stealth characters. It's not like Assassin's Creed or anything. So they focus on offensive abilities. They specialize in pistols and sniper rifles. They can wear medium armor, so you can protect yourself a little more. Like I said, infiltrators are very powerful. So they're a cross. So Sentinels are a cross between biotic and tech abilities. So in the game, Kaidan Alenko, who's one of the characters that is one of your squad mates you get from the very beginning, Kaidan Alenko is a Sentinel. He combines both biotic and tech abilities. They can be very, very powerful. And they're kind of a jack of all trades, but they're not that great at combat. So just FYI, if you're going to play as this character, make sure you're always bringing someone who is very strong in combat with you on missions. And the final character is Vanguard. Vanguard is a character that is basically combines combat and biotics. They excel in very short-range combat with shotguns. They're kind of a high-risk, high-reward type of play style, especially in Mass Effect 3. Mass Effect 1, I don't have a lot of recommendations for playing as this type of character in Mass Effect 1, but you do you. Honestly, it's ultimately up to you. Mass Effect 3, there's a tremendously high benefit as playing as a Vanguard character. Now, the good thing is that you can change your character from game to game in terms of like your specialization. If you play as a soldier in Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2, you can play as an infiltrator. And you can play as a Vanguard in Mass Effect 3, even if you carry your character all the way through and it's the same character, because the same storylines and the same story threads will carry you along the way. So something to keep in mind, that you're not locked into a certain specialization in Mass Effect 1 and that's it. Now some people will, for role-playing purposes, will stick to that, but ultimately that's your decision. All right, so on the screen here is the lovely Liara. So Liara, and this is a picture from Mass Effect 1, yeah, because that's the background that's definitely the Normandy there from the first game. This is where I got the idea of making this video. I saw a lot of people streaming this game, and most of the people, they're getting off the Citadel and they're going straight to Novaria as their first mission. So, obviously you're free to do what you want. You'll notice in your character when you're in your character screens where you can pick your squad, there's 6 slots, there's 6 silhouettes there. And when you leave the Citadel for the first time, one of them is missing, and that's where Liara goes. And you can see it; she's kind of grayed out, but you can still see her. I mean, you can see her face and everything. It's just kind of shadowed out. And even the council says, they give you the option to say, hey, why don't you can go to the Artemis Tau cluster and pick up Liara Tassoni. And they say, or you can go to Pharos, or you can go to Novaria. So really, from a main story perspective, there are 3 places that you can go that's part of the main story. You're not locked into going to one or the other. Me personally, I think the best option is to get Liara first. You want to max out your characters before you go too much farther in the game. If you wait until the end to pick up Liara, which is, you have to get her at some point, okay? You can't just not pick her up. But if you wait until the end to pick her up, really before like the second to last mission of the game, there's so many things that you miss out on, especially on Novaria. Now, I'm not going to spoil what Novaria is, but you will miss out on very crucial dialogue and crucial role-playing elements that are, I guess it's much more satisfying to have Liara on your team. Liara is the heart and soul of this series. Some people will say that's Tali. So you pick up Tali on the Citadel. No spoilers there, especially for the people that have playing this. I mean, your characters that you can play with or that you can take with you. When it comes to companions, you've got, you have Garrus, you have Tali, you have Rex, you have Liara, you have Ashley, and you have Caden in the first game. Obviously, Ashley and Caden you have from the very beginning. Well, relatively, you get Ashley on the first mission. The one thing that when I say that Liara is the heart and soul of this, I'm not going to go any further into that, but I will say she is an amazing character with an amazing voice actor, and Ali Hillis, who does just a tremendous job with Liara's character. And I think as you get more into it, you'll find yourself, you're like, man, this character is amazing. Actually, all the characters are amazing. I don't dislike any of the characters. I love them all. I tend to, me personally, when I play, I tend to always go towards, siding with Liara in situations. And there are things that you will have to do in that regard. So, when you leave the Citadel for the first time, please, please, please go pick up Liara first. Do that mission before you do Pharos or before you do Novaria. I see so many, like I said, I see so many people rushing off to do Novaria first. And I was like, you're just missing out on so many potential options here. The last thing I really want to say, explore the galaxy, okay? So when you leave the Citadel for the first time, you have access to the entire galaxy for the most part. There's a couple systems that aren't present yet, including our own system, which you can get to later. Explore the systems, explore the planets. Some of the planets you can land on them, and then open up your map, put waypoints onto points of interest, and drive to them in the Mako, and see what they are. That's how you find so many little side quests and loot and whatnot. It's so much more rewarding. You can just blaze through the main storyline and not do any of the side content, but your gameplays for Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3 will be so much richer if you take your time, explore the galaxy. Now, if you're a streamer, like I'm streaming the game, I'm going to stream everything though, but if you're streaming it for a large audience, you may not want to stream 2 hours of gameplay of you exploring, 15 different systems or 15 different planets, and there's just not a lot to do other than it's kind of repetitive, not tremendously exciting for viewers. You may want to just play that on your own and maybe only stream the missions, which is completely acceptable. I think that's perfectly fine to do. So anyway, so those are some of my tips and tricks on how to get started playing Mass Effect, what I would do if I was in your shoes, as someone who, like I said, I played this game back in 2007 when it first came out. I played it on the Xbox 360, I played it on the PC, and then ultimately I played it on the PS3 when it was released for the PS3 eventually, and now I play the Legendary Edition on a PC. So I've played it on all platforms. I will say the Legendary Edition is amazing. The graphics here are what they've done to make the graphics relevant to 2021 is nothing short of spectacular. This game is what, 14? Yeah, 14 years old. It is 14 years old, and it looks amazing. Does it look like Cyberpunk? Maybe not. Does it look like Assassin's Creed Valhalla? I don't think that game looks that great, so maybe that's a bad choice. Anyway, thanks for watching this video, guys. If you liked it, give me a like. If you want to subscribe to my channel, you can. I don't put out content on a regular basis. I work a job. There's a lot of things I do in my free time. As you can see in some of my other videos, I like to barbecue a lot. So if you subscribe, it's not something that I put out videos every single day, but I go through cycles. But if you do like the content, let me know, and that helps me kind of, spur me along to say, hey, people like these videos. Maybe I should learn more about how to make more interactive videos with music in the background and videos going on, because I don't know how to do that yet. So I'm kind of stuck in my ways as a 40-something-year-old dude here. So anyway, thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Enjoy your day. And if you're loving Mass Effect, I'm just tremendously happy for you. Thanks, guys.